This love, when I wanna get another one, I go take and do waiting I love, waiting you love, oh. No be waiting I love, oh. Waiting I love, I go do what without my heart, oh. Go no be vodka. This time on the ginger, but when I know I know the ways that.
You let a yum 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 yum. Nayela pere, matinayela pese. You let a yum 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 yum. Nayela pere, muna kapela, chora kakisa, bayari yela pere, balungana bayre, tupa ani, aimping tuma, asanta tapage, bayu tuvitele, masankele yura, babantu viyara, bayari yela pere, bongana bayre, tupa ani, asikulga tuma, ikina kine, ukile sikulga kine, titatia, undidle sikulga tia. Satasua, zadle sikulga sua. Korakua, kole sikulga kua. Sarasua, sole sikulga sua. Tinayela pere, chora kakisa, bayari hala pere, bong na baire, tupa ani, sikulga tuma, tupa ani, sikulga tuma.
That dream of studying and working abroad has been made much accessible to everyone, including you. So worry less about how you're going to get there, because we always make it happen. This is Staffinders Ghana Limited. We offer a highly professional guidance and support system, both in your university and visa application process. Staffinders Ghana Limited is a highly trusted agency of the University of the West of Scotland, one of the largest modern universities offering a range of academic, social, and sporting facilities. You can apply for undergraduate, master's and PhD in business and creative industries, education, social sciences, computing, engineering, physical sciences, health, and life sciences. Come through Staffinders, and for your studies, you get yourself a laptop or a £500 gift voucher. Call on +233 598 4888 04. WhatsApp on +44 7404 711 049. Send us an email or visit our website for more information.
Welcome to Political Justice. It's yet another Saturday afternoon. We live in the diaspora, and I usually say the diaspora is not an escape. What happens in the motherland affects us too. And as usual, here with me this afternoon is my esteemed panelist, James Amemaso, professor at Rutgers University, Hajia Sherifa Strong, a counselor, women's and children's advocate, Zita Sheshi, a sociologist in Canada, and last but not least, Ni Amak Okai, professor of actuarial science, Appalachian State University in North Carolina. You're welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Hajia Baraka de Salah. Where's the Salah meat?
It's not time for the meat yet. In due time, we'll be having the biggest celebration, and inshallah, we'll all get together and celebrate together. Thank you.
When is that one?
It's coming. Don't worry.
Whatever you must do to get the meat to us, you have to.
No, we can teleport it. Don't worry. Soon we'll start reading people's minds, so it's possible.
All right. Well, anyway, let's jump right into the issues. I'm sure our viewers are anxious to listen to what we have this afternoon. So we're going to talk about, three main issues. First of all, being the Electoral Commission, Recently, we heard about the fact that they are missing a number of electoral equipment, and we're going to talk about that, but we also want to talk about the Electoral Commission more broadly in terms of their conduct over the years and how that positions the upcoming election. And then we would then move into talking about, taxes and import duties, right? Recently, I think in the past couple of days, there was a video making the rounds regarding a kind of a charitable organization that imported drugs, and they're having a hard time actually, clearing the drugs because of the exorbitant import duties that have been imposed on them. And then we'll go to the performance tracker that has been launched by the governing party. We'll talk about that in details. What is the intention behind the performance tracker? And so I would like us to jump right into the issues and then play the first video concerning the biometric equipment that is missing, and then we'll come back and then delve into the issues.
The question, though, is considering that the EC's earlier position was that they do not have on record any missing biometric verification device, and that what is missing relates to 5 laptops. Now we're hearing indeed one biometric verification device is indeed missing. Doesn't that raise concern for you as a MPP?
So, Evans, if you know how the biometric verification registration kit works, it's a whole system. The computer is one component. For you to be able to access the whole system, you should have a certain password. Without that, the computer alone out of it, that whole system becomes moribund. You can't use it. You can't use it for anything. There isn't any data on it. And so I'm surprised that the NDC, who claims to have intelligence on the missing kids, will not volunteer information to the police. Please, let's find out from the EC the actual situation. Let's find out where they reported in terms of the police station, and then we can then verify. And I really have my doubt whether we should not discuss something else than to spend our whole energies on this issue. NDC says 7 of the DVRs were missing. EC comes and said it's 5 computers, and we've reported to the police. The other one you mentioned, the Norton issue, the Nanton issue, the Takwa, this is said their installations were vandalized. And out of that, some of their DVDs are missing. They are not able to trace them, but they've reported to the police. It is for all interested parties, stakeholders, to assist. Other than that, I don't see where there should be a confusion.
And when did this happen? So 3 EC installations housing equipment had been raided.
I think the EC will be in a position to provide the details on these things.
But they told you, they gave you the briefing today at the IPAC meeting.
Please, it's the NDC Omane Boama who says he has 35 questions for EC.
But you're just confirming that at least 3 EC installations across the country had been raided, and 3 of them have reported some missing
last
equipment.
limited registration exercise they did in Takwa, they had a problem. The district level elections they conducted, they had an issue in Norton. In the case of Nanton, they couldn't conduct the exercise, and the 9 or 8 of the DVDs are with the police in Nanton. This is what the EC finished us when we had the IPAC meeting. I think we can verify from there.
I've just been joined by Mustafa Agbande, the NDC's Deputy General Secretary. Mustafa Agbande, what was the account at the IPAC today as far as these biometric verification devices are concerned?
All right. So now, but before we go into talking about that, I just wanted to talk about, some of the things that the EC has done over the years. I mean, we mentioned this briefly the last time, but this issue about biometric equipment, I think there's a broader discussion about what it may imply for the upcoming registration exercise and eventually the election. You know, over the years or over the past couple of elections, I've had reason to think that, voter suppression is something that we should be concerned about. And I just prepared a slide here that I wanted to show with respect to, the last voter registration exercise and whether, for instance, the NDC should be concerned about this issue of missing biometric equipment. So, for instance, in the last registration exercise prior to the 2020 election, there was a compilation of a new voters register, right? We had actually compiled a new register prior to the 2016 election, and then 2020, the EC insisted on compiling a new register. Now, I don't know if this is very clear to you guys, but if you look at this, right, and look at the NDC strongholds, for instance, the Volta Ridge, right? Look at the number of new voters that were added to the voter roll from the previous election, 2016. Only 508 voters. Now, a comparable region would be the Brong Ahafo region, right? The Brong Ahafo gained about 149,000 new voters. Now, you go to the Upper East region, which is also another stronghold of the NDC, right? They gained about 4,000 new voters. Compare that to the Upper West region, which is actually even smaller than the Upper East. They gained over 50,000 new voters. Now, why is this relevant? I mean, if you look at the history of elections in terms of the margins that the NDC has won by, they're usually slim compared to when MPP wins. And so if the NDC sits by and allows voter suppression to take place, the issues might be in their favor in the election, but they could actually lose the election, right? I mean, just look at what the Volta region, for instance. I mean, I would say at least they should have gained up to 100,000 voters from the previous 2016. But if they're only gaining 500 voters, while other places, even the smaller regions like the Upper West is gaining 50,000, right? Even the Upper East, that I have reason to think that those were equally suppressed too, they gained 4,000. And then the Volta region, which is more populous, only gained 500 new voters. This means that you're just giving votes away if you're not vigilant and making sure that you're getting all the members or all the individuals in your stronghold registered. So with this missing biometric, equipment, there ought to be some concern because the track record of the Electoral Commission is not something that you can give them the benefit of the doubt for, right? So this is one aspect of the issue. I'll allow you guys to come in, and if you have anything to add to what I'm talking about here, then I'll begin with you, Haja Sharifa. It looks like you're eager to go for it.
Sorry. I'm just baffled because, I mean, first of all, thank you for having us. If you listen to what the man was saying, Mr. Evans, it's just sad to hear him speak like that, because gradually NPP have become the mouthpiece, the spokespersons, and also like they act like the lawyers of the EC, because this should be a matter of concern to all Ghanaians and all political parties, respectively, because we cannot take away the will of the people by forcing ourselves on them. Whatever or whoever they decide to elect as their president, as their leaders, should be who should lead them or govern them. And so if you decide to speak for the EC, knowing very well that these issues are not just a political matter, but issues that can, start a war in a country, because the people's will be taken away from them. And, if care is not taken, or if matters are not managed, it can, start an uprising, or a war that can lead to something that can cost us a lot. Now, look at what you just posted. We're a country that's growing, and every time our numbers increase, and to think that Volta region, of all places, only in 2016 only had or an increment or a registered voters of just 508 is disturbing. NDC have a legitimate reason and in fact, I'm very worried that they are too laid back and quiet about this whole thing, because I want to see more fire from not just NDC, but the rest of the political party. I don't know if it is just left to two parties alone in Ghana, now, but I want to see more. Want right to be done. Now, talking about the missing equipments or gadgets, these are not ordinary gadgets. These are security equipments. Look at what is happening today. Even the representatives of the EC, they have security protection. And a place to think that a place like the EC offices and department doesn't have security to protect these gadgets is worrying. We all know the implications. We all know what these gadgets can, do when it falls into wrong hands. Definitely, somebody is planning to manipulate our election, steal votes, or even control things like the NDC are saying. And it doesn't matter if it is just one that is missing. Are they missing? Are the questions we should be asking. When were they missing? And why didn't the EC volunteer to come and tell Ghanaians, or to inform Ghanaians, or to let Ghanaians know that these gadgets are missing, but wait until the NDC are raising concerns or raising, hell on them about this before they come out and tell us? It should worry us. And I think that Ghanaians should come out and condemn these things, so that EC would know that, look, we don't want you to start a war. We are vigilant, and whatever that these things are going to do must be stopped. I think it's a concerning issue.
All right. So James, I'll go to you next on this matter.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Host. Yes, you did elaborate on the issue broadly, and of course the video said it all. Numbers don't lie. You put up the numbers for us to see, and they all boil down to the EC, whether the numbers or not. The EC is at the center of it. And what I want to say to start with is that our, Ghana's experiment in democracy hinges on the credibility of the EC. It hinges on the integrity of what EC does. And then, of course, it hinges on everything EC has to do with the process and even the outcome of our elections. So our experiment will only survive if EC does what it's supposed to do, what is there to do as an institution. But over the years, we have not seen the EC doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing, particularly when the NPP took over. And of course, appointed NPP politicians into position. Dr. Bosman Asare, for instance, we know he's an NPP man. The deputy, EC chairs, we know they are all NPP people. So what they are trying to do, what the EC is doing, calls for attention. It brings about grave concern, right? The survival of our democracy, the survival of our experiment. And I'm using that term intentionally. Experiment in democracy is a grave concern for us. EC must play its role to make sure that we keep our country. Hajia was alluding to it, for instance, as to why the EC has not come out to explain some of these challenges. They have not, because we know the EC is in the pocket of the NPP government, the Akufo Addo government, the Baumia-led government. And that's exactly what they're trying to do. My grave concern is that, Ghanaians have seen how bad the NPP administration has performed, the Akufo Addo Baumia administration has performed, the promises they made to Ghanaians, they have not. So they're using the AC as an instrument. And I'm using that term instrument carefully, knowing what it means, as an instrument to achieve something that they could not achieve. And that's what they're trying to do, to manipulate the process, to win, to keep them in power, to keep the NPP in power, because the NPP has damaged the country so bad that the only way they can have any impact in the future is to hold on to power. And the promoters of Dr. Baumia are doing nothing but to make sure that they cover their tracks with the level of damage that they have done. And not only that, but ruin the country if need be. So EC, we're calling on EC, all Ghanaians everywhere, all of us, that the experiment we are making in democracy, the security of our country hinges on this process. What the EC is doing leading to the elections, what EC is going to do on the election day, the collation of numbers. If EC is listening, EC officials, please, we are begging all of you to do the right thing. We've come a long way since 1992, and we have to move forward. Experiment in the sense that even developed democracy like the United States, they're still having challenges with their democracy. Ours is very fragile to the extent that we need the EC to play its role, do what it's supposed to do, so that we can have a country. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Zita, I'll come to you, but let me go to this first, right? In the 2020 election, right, there was people from what has become popularly known as the Seoul region, right, Central Kofi, Apafu, Lolobi, and Lekwe, in the former Volta region, woke up on the day of election to learn that they weren't going to vote in the parliamentary election. And the reason being that during the creation of the new regions, right? So for instance, these 4 communities were taken out of their former constituency or district, which is Hohoi, and added to the new region. Now, technically, if you are creating a new region, you take the boundary from existing district boundaries, right? So that you just cut it off from one district, and then the districts will be the boundaries of the new region. But they chose not to do so, but they decided that they were going to take 4 communities out of this district and then add them to this new region. So what it meant was that when they created the new region, then these 4 communities became orphaned, so to speak. They couldn't be part of the Boeing constituency because they weren't originally part of that constituency. They were part of Hohoi, which now belongs to a new region, and you can have a constituency or a group or a community in a different region voting in another region. And this, they knew about this all the way through until the eve of election to come out and say that they weren't qualified to vote in any constituency. Now, I created these maps, and eventually they had to create the Guan district for these orphaned communities. Their voter population is about 17,000 voters. For some odd reason, oddly, right, Peter Mewu of the NPP won the Hohoi seat. The difference in that election was about 5,000 voters. I always call this as the world's most expensive gerrymandering. Right? The fact that they had to go through all this process just to secure a parliamentary seat is quite extreme if you want to look at it in the context of what went on here. And we don't have the time to go into the details and explain sort of the how all this whole situation is, but it's my charge of, gerrymandering warranted based on what transpired in this area. And I want you to speak to the broader issue of political equality, right? And the fact that no group of people should ever be disenfranchised under any circumstance. And we are concerned about this because it seems the EC has a track record of some form of political or electoral malfeasance. And then we'll still talk about, there's still a long list of things that they have done. So I want you to speak to the issue of political equality and justice more broadly and how that is impacting our democracy.
Thank you so much, my esteemed host and my colleagues. I hope we are all doing well. For me, when my colleagues were talking about this issue, as somebody who's from the Volta region, again, positionality is important. I grew up in Tema, and so I'm not going to say that I am from the region, but I grew up in Tema. However, there has been this consistent pattern of making people from the Volta region not feel like they are Ghanaians. And I originally hail from Aflao. That is where my father is from. And so as a member of a patrilineal ethnic group, I align with coming from Aflao. And in my father's house in Aflao, I come out of my house and I look outside and there is a barbed wire demarcating between Togo and Ghana, right? And so you can just see, and you can see the military people patrolling on the border. And it has been this consistent feeling of making airways feel like they are not part. So even in as much as voter suppression is an integral part of the issue, and political injustice is an integral part of an issue, there is this dissent among Voltarians that even if, on a good day, even if things were fair, Voltarians have consistently felt stigmatized and targeted by the Akan group, to a large extent the MPP, such that they feel like they are not Ghanaians. We've all seen the reckless comments made by pastors like Ajinasari saying that Nogoko is the headquarters. There has been this consistent feeling of not feeling Ghanaian and being targeted as a verse in Ghana. And so it ties into this whole issue, ties into the broader issue, because there was a by-election in the Volta region, and there was this missing of or dismantling, destroying of electoral materials over there. And so it's a buildup of all these issues. And we saw Nana Addo go during the flood issue, talk about, you don't vote for me, I'm not supposed to be here, but I'm here. Consistently, Voltarians have been targeted. And so it's a dual way of thinking of it. We can't just think of it as voter suppression and an issue of political injustice, but a systematic and a consistent attempt to make a particular group of people feel like they are not Ghanaians and they shouldn't have that free will to participate. So even if on a good day everything was fair, just go to any part of the Volta region and speak to them. And to a large extent, some of them might not just be interested in Ghana politics and who represents them, because at the end of the day, there is this long history of us feeling like we are not part of Ghana and our voice does not matter, and people don't really care about us. So I wanted to bring that into perspective, that we need to look at the historical trajectory as well as a systematic attempt to disenfranchise and again oppress people from the Volta region.
Okay. So Ni, looking at what I have displayed on the screens and also the broader issue of this missing biometric equipment, should the NDC be concerned going into this election? And what would be your advice in terms of, taking steps to ensure that there is voter integrity, both during the process of registering to vote, as well as during the election itself.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Agana. Now, what I think is, as a leader, right, it is important to eliminate any doubt of conflict of interest. But what did we see from our president? We heard that he appointed 3 individuals who are allegedly, MPP members to the board of the EC. Now, this has led to speculation about their appointment, that it could lead to some fraudulent activities during the election. So having missing equipment does no favors to the EC. And I think the NDC leadership should not play with this. They should fight this and hold the EC accountable with every tool they got, right? And also, as a strategy, they shouldn't just focus on the election. As you mentioned, the parliamentary election too is also important. It could be that the MPP just want to have some lead in the parliamentary election and force EC to, declare the results in their favor. So they shouldn't joke with the parliamentary seats. They shouldn't joke with this missing equipment. So I looked at the 35 questions that NDC were asking, and all these are sensible questions. Okay, I'm not going to go into all the 35 questions. I just want to look at the last 5. First, the last 9, and that was under the preventing reoccurrence of this. The question is, what are the protocols for the storage of such devices at the headquarters of EC? This is a sensible question if you are interested in this issue, right? We want to know what the protocols are, who is in charge of this, right? And the next question is, were these protocols adhered to, right, or respected? These are sensible questions we need answers to. And it's not, and NDC shouldn't be the only people interested in this. The MPP should be also interested in this question, because right now they have the power. They are in government. They have to make sure this election is free and fair, and that is their responsibility. The next question: who has the personal responsibility for safe custody of items? The next question: the persons who had personal responsibility for these items, are they permanent or temporary staff of EC? If they are temporary staff, how long or how many times have they worked for the EC? These are all reasonable questions. What are the serial numbers of these BVDs? Which polling stations were these BVDs deployed to? And again, this leads to the kind of the voting suppression in certain areas. So we want to know, right, where these BVDs were deployed, where are they going to be deployed, right? We want to know, because at the end of the day, it affects the entire integrity of the elections. Now, I just want to end by saying that, and this is in the broader scope of things, right? Again, I said this last week. The president of Ghana holds the power to appoint the EC and board of the EC. And in my opinion, that's a significant flaw in the constitution. So we need to have or seriously look at the broader conversation of, shifting that power to, let's say, the parliament, which can do a better job than having the power to appoint members of the board and the EC chair on this commission. But what I want to say to conclude is, I really do believe that NDC should take this as serious as anything, because we are going to use these machines for the voting, and they shouldn't joke with this. I know the leadership, the people we voted for, or that were voted to the leadership of the NDC, are fighters, and that's what we want to see now. They should get into the ring and start fighting, because if they lose the fight before we get to the election will be over.
Okay, absolutely.
Can I also say something before we go?
Yes.
I think they need to conscientize the people of Ghana. I think people are not actually understanding the magnitude of what is going on. People don't understand what these devices or gadgets are for. and why NDC are concerned. NDC should have a widespread, information on this, because it also threatens the security of our country. Like I said, it can drive us into a war, because we have, or NDC or anybody can stand up and say, look, this election is flawed. We are not going to take it. And what does that bring? A war. So they should educate people why we need to stand up to the EC, to those defending this things, and let them know these are not just ordinary gadgets. These are not just things that does not have any implications to our elections. It has a lot to do with us and how we decide who to govern us. So they have to stand up, as Nee is saying. They are not ordinary gadgets. So I'm not seeing a lot of noise about it, because people, and a lot of information about it, because they've left it to NDC, thinking it's because it's an opposition thing, but it's more than just being an NDC problem. It's more concerning, or a bigger problem than we are seeing it. Thanks.
Yeah. I mean, if you heard the video I played, appeared the MPP guy was supporting the whole, what is going on. They seem not to be concerned. And I think that should be alarming to the NDC as well.
Because it's in their favor, because they know what is happening, because they are in cahoots with it's very obvious. They are in cahoots with the EC. It is to favor them. So why would they be concerned? Why wouldn't they rubbish it? And that is why I said maybe NDC should educate the general public on the implications of what their concerns are, and not just make it a voter issue. It's more than that. The man spoke very arrogantly, saying NDC are the ones saying from nothing is missing to at least this number is missing. And he's talking as if just even one gadget missing has no implication to our voter processes. So I think education is what we need at this point. Nobody's going to take the Ghanaian voters for granted. They want a leader to lead them, and so they should elect who should they elect should be the one to lead them. It's getting to be too much.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the NDC needs to take the registration exercise very seriously. It's not on the day of voting alone that the election begins. It begins way before that. And I mean, if the evidence is anything to go by, the fact that the NDC won the 2008 election by only 40,000 votes. If you are losing registered voters, what it means is that you are beginning the election when you have already lost, right? So voter registration should be taken seriously. I mean, probably more serious even than the election itself. But I think we have belabored the point enough. But also,
and
yes.
On the issue of, and I think one of the strategies that NDC can leverage is to really do the grassroots, go to your strongholds and really do the door-to-door and engage. Because I can tell you, like, I went to Aflao, but you can go to Aflao and you will see, because we are rightly on the border, and of course, by virtue of that border, some of our family members are on the Togo side, right? That is where I come from. Half of my family is in Togo, half is in Ghana, Aflao, and it's just a barbed wire. And so you go there and there's this descent. So it is important to go one-on-one and really, really listen to the people and engage and tell them that, yes, that there have been historical experiences of being excluded and feeling like they are not Ghanaians, but it is important to realize that they are Ghanaians, their voice matter, and that they should come out and register and vote. Do not just say that, because looking at the numbers, 500, just a little over 500 in Volta region is extremely disturbing. And again, it ties back to this whole issue of the whole recreation of regions. Again, a systematic attempt to just cut a particular group off. So in light of that, I would encourage extremely grassroots engagement, because I am unaware, even though I don't live in Ghana, I have this level of exhaustion when it comes to feeling like I'm a Ghanaian, just because on all fronts, in the political front, in the religious front, and even on just the not for Ghanaian interaction front, you say you're never AI before the like it's just these issues just makes it difficult for others to feel like they are truly Ghanaian. And so they need to really do some grassroots to be able to instill that sense of belonging among the people in the Volta region. That's something that I will highly recommend.
All right. Okay. So, I mean, there's a long list of things that the EC has done. I don't think they need the benefit of the doubt. As you said, the NDC needs to go hard on them with respect to this missing equipment, right? Laptops are missing, the equipment is missing. So it's very likely that, who knows, people can be registered with this equipment and nobody will know. So it's not to be treated lightly. So, but let's move along to the next issue here. And let's talk about the issue of taxes and import duties. But as I said before, every week we try to avoid our venerable Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, but somehow he keeps inserting himself into our conversation. So we are left with no choice but to play a video of him, and then it will lead us into the conversation. But
it is not the grandstanding, and that is important. It is getting the serious issues resolved.
His government is going to build a globally competitive economy. We have not really been thinking global, and this is what we need to do. That we have to understand that we are in competition with other countries, and investment moves from country to country, so we have to think global. And so, the Nana Akufo-Addo policy, which he stated, is just basically to build the most people-friendly and the most business-friendly economy in Africa. This is the goal that we are going to try to do, the most people-friendly and the most business-friendly. The tax issue is a major issue, because if you are so, fixated on revenue, you will essentially end up hurting your production. And so if you go back into history, study the economic history of United States, Germany, England, all of them have used the tax, policy to encourage production. And this is why we are saying that, today you have a situation in Ghana, unbelievable situation, where businesses are out on strike. Businesses who should be selling are out on strike. Why are they out on strike? Because they've been overburdened by taxes, and if you don't take care, you'll be chasing the tax revenue and killing businesses. And when you kill businesses, it means you are causing unemployment. And so if you go back, this is why Nana Akufo-Addo is saying, we need to mobilize financial resources. So why are you going to be imposing VAT on financial services? It doesn't make sense in a country which has got a very large unbanked population, and we want people to bank. We will abolish that, he says. We will abolish import duty on all raw materials, because that has been a policy that will help production. Let the businesses produce. Let them make profit. And when they make profit and employ people, we will get income taxes and we will get corporate taxes. So you don't go ahead to kill the business. No, let them bring in the raw materials. Let them produce. Then you will tax, at the end of the day. And I think that you have a government where you have cutlasses being taxed, condoms being taxed, and even savings. There was a 1% imposition on savings, which was later withdrawn. Investments, which was later. Even to think about it it's been suspended. It's been suspended. But even to think about it.
Oh, it's now abolished, is it?
Yeah, but even to think about it, it just questions who are making these policies.
But isn't it just another way?
Another way of raising revenue.
Well, yes,
but when you become desperate, this is what happens, that when you've mismanaged the economy into this hole, then anything sounds great to you because you don't have any option.
All right. So
now I feel and the Global Fund ekra indro edemane yen sa indro ye ken assume over $40 million na niati ne sɛ afi bia no mo sending ndro a no mo disika kakra ka ho sɛ betumi di saa sika no eji ndro no na afi nkwa de ɛyɛ last year ba ye no aban say ɛyɛ ye port charges any levies akosoro into global fund first can be enka ho na global fund so say wo mo hyehyɛ mu no omo ntua to essence ndro no omo de chakwa omo de ma free nti omo hu de nti a ɛsɛ omo san tua to ɛfa so essence asika na ye nya ntua ye nti no ndro no aka habo na meka say so ndro ya shorty our hospitals.
My colleagues have already said it, how painful it is for us to see or to think that the leadership of our country does not care about us. That people from outside would buy the needed medication, the needed equipment, commodities to help Ghanaians. And the things have arrived at the port and are seated there.
Sɛ nkurɔfoɔ yare a ɔmo ntumi nkɔ adwuma ɛno nso so ti economy no so yɛnya nte aseɛ saa sɛnea adeɛ no nsunsuansoɔ te no saa na ɛte nti na yɛni abere a yɛafrɛ mo ha.
If you look at malaria, Africa has the highest burden of malaria. If you look at TB, Africa has the highest burden of TB. If you look at HIV, Africa has the highest burden of.
Okay. All right, I think the point has been made, but let's go to JM and hear what he also says about
network charges. The network charge.
So he's talking about
the network charge of it. Oh, I'm shocked. Then Ghana Shippers Authority, then import NHIL, then network charge NHIL, then GHS disinfection fee, then MOTI import declaration fee, special import levy, Ghana Export Import Bank levy, Ghana Education Trust Fund, Ghana Education Trust Fund network charge, African Union import levy, then COVID health recovery levy, then certification, then IRS. You know, there is overage penalty by 0 because it's a new car. But if it was an overage car, it means it will be 23. You know, and so I was shocked myself.
All right. Chairman James, can you unpack this contradiction for us?
Thank you, Dr. Agana. Yes, talking about taxes, I think the first video that was showed when the former vice president, the late former vice president, was speaking about grandstanding. He used the word grandstanding to describe Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia's statements. And he was right. There's no grandstander politician in Ghana than Dr. Bawumia. And so to know that in 2024, there are about almost 23 taxes, GM said that. 22, if there was an old age, what they call it, the tax for vehicles, there would have been 23. 23 different taxes imposed on just one car that was imported into a country. Bawumia was right when he said, look, you know what? We have to build people-friendly economy. We have to build a business-friendly economy. That's very true, because that's the way you can give confidence to Ghanaians, to our people. And so you create room for them to be able to deliver. And then you can get tax from there, get revenue. And then, of course, you use this revenue to develop the country in greater way. But JM was right that posterity was going to be his judge. And he was absolutely right. That was very prophetic. Dr. Bawumia's statement all along has demonstrated that, in other words, his grandstanding statements are exposed in a way by the reality of governance. He was not in government. He had no idea what this could be, but he made all kinds of statements, which was very true. But facing governance, we've seen what he's able to do and what he's not able to do. the country is choked with taxation, just one car, 22 different taxes imposed. So at the end, the amount of money that was used to import the car, you pay that to the government. And here is a sad case. That money doesn't even trickle down into the economy. It is shared among the friends and family, leaders of the country. The way they are running the country, borrowing without limit, and there's nothing to show for it. That is what is sad about it. So taxation is a very important thing. Every government around the world, they do. But when you burden your people with taxation, with all kinds of dubious taxes that don't even trickle down, it becomes a problem. And Dr. Bawumia, I hope that he's listening to himself as of now. I am very surprised that in 2024, he's still having the courage, having the audacity to talk about to be considered to be elected as the president of Ghana when everything he had touched on, nothing had worked at this point. So in other words, the grandstanding statement or the grand standard that he is just not real with himself. He has failed. And if I were him, I would probably be hiding myself somewhere, not even show my face, because it's just ridiculous. Trying to reconcile the individual and the statements he's made all along and the performance of his government, which has been exposed by the reality of governance, which he had not tasted. And then of course, said everything about President Mahama when he was in power, and to come to the reality that his administration, his record is worse than what he had criticized is just alarming. Again, NPP should know, but this is the bigger part of it. I think the NPP administration, the NPP government, and Akufo-Addo, Bawumia, they don't have any plan for the country. And so Bawumia is just doing everything to cover the holes that they have dug. And that's what they're running for, because there's nothing they can offer. They've seen that. They don't have any plan for the country. All they have is for themselves, and that's exactly what they've done. If Ghanaians are true to themselves, they should ask themselves, right, are they having a business-friendly economy right now? I think majority will say no. Are they having a people-friendly economy? Are they able to afford basic things? No. It's because, look, the taxes imposed are too high. And so there's no money trickling down. When these taxes are so high, businessmen will have to sell them because they are depending on foreign currency to be able to import anything into the country. So at the end, prices are going to go up and continue to go up. So it's a very sad situation we find ourselves. The only thing we can do is to reject the NPP completely, all of us, mobilize ourselves. If we all have to do, yes, we all have to, every Ghanaian, every meaning Ghanaian anywhere, even if you don't live in Ghana, you still have Ghana at your heart. We all have to mobilize, contribute, and make sure that we bury this party forever.
Okay. All right, Haja. If we were back in the days of the VHS tapes, right, will there be enough tape to carry Bawumia's contradictions?
Sometimes I wish we practice this traditional gauze and stuff, so that at this point we will call it on people like Bawumia, so they will be striked to death. Because if you listen to Bawumia then and now, you ask yourself, really? Well, they say talk is cheap. The reality is exposing them, just like he tasked Ghanaians to look at what was happening in JM's economy. Today, I want NDC to really drive this issues home. Go to the market and just speak to ordinary people, spare parts dealers, market women, market importers and exporters. The reality on grounds is so sickening. Like Bawumia talking about, he's an excellent speaker. I'll give that to him. He's an excellent speaker. When it comes to, implementing it is where he has a problem. You have imposed all these taxes on Ghanaians. And today you are sitting down and talking about when I come. You who imposed it and who is taking it off Ghanaians? We all saw what happened during the passage of e-levy. They had to fly people, especially the famous TikToker Adwoa Safo, to Ghana on private jets, you know, to come and vote for this levy to be passed. And you, the same person, would come and tell Ghanaians, you know what, when I come, I'm going to scrap this, I'm going to scrap that. A common, and I don't say this, you know, disrespectfully, Hande Elentra, someone paid a duty of 50,000, almost 50,000 Ghana cedis. How much, you ask yourself, how much is the car? Supposing you are sending this car to go sell, to at least support your family or also be able to set up something. And then you have to pay a duty of 50,000 Ghana cedis. And this car is not new. It's an old car. And we know we buy cars based on their age. How much money are you going to make? How much was the car itself cost? Did the car itself cost? How much shipment did you incur on that to sell? I mean, to pay a tax. I mean, what we call it, import duties of 50,000 on it. So the reality on grounds is exposing Dr. Bawumia. I want every Ghanaian to listen to Bawumia yesterday and listen to Bawumia today. He's talking about importation. There's 5 to 20% taxes on from raw materials to finished products. And then you ask yourself, once it gets into the country, how much are they going to sell to ordinary people who buy things to be able to go and sell, the retailers and the middlemen? I have a friend here who does shipment, and he supports his people in his village. Sometimes the things you see him go through, he can ship bicycles, chairs, tables, computers to go and support his village. These are things that we should be able to encourage for people in the diaspora to do to support people back home. But once the things get into Ghana, the taxes that they put on these things that are already used, and he's just going to it. So these are charitable things, I call them. The taxes they impose on these things before this man is able to clear the goods. Sometimes they go into demurrage and then they charge him for that. You ask yourself, I mean, how cruel can a government be? The same government that, chastised, called the predecessors wicked and all that, is now imposing all these taxes. Yet Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is coming to tell Ghanaians, oh, I am different. I wasn't the driver, so I'm going to do things different. You are the head of the economic management team. You are the one who made these laws. You are the part of the decision makers. You are part of those who decided on Ghanaians what taxes they should pay. What did you do? Why are you not taking those taxes off now? Why wait till 2024 campaign, 2024 election? Why wait till you are a president before you take it off? Is what I want them to ask him. Why is he still being able to talk without anybody making sure that he watches these things that he said during 2016, 2020 election? Why is he having the confidence? It's just how he's able to talk is mind-blowing. It's just shameful. It's shameful.
Yeah, don't worry, Sharifa. Many others are speechless as well. But yeah, but Bani, I mean, even if we were to say, for instance, importation of cars, cars are luxuries, and we're not particularly concerned about the duties that are imposed on cars. But how about the first video we saw with respect to, a charitable organization importing something as essential as drugs, and then the goods are being held at the port because they are expected to pay duties on these things?
Yeah, sometimes, first of all, I just want to comment a little bit on that Bawumia's video. I'm like, this guy was talking about creating an economy for the unbanked, and he came and introduced e-levy. Like, this guy, he was talking about 1%, whatever, tax on savings that was abolished, and he came and gave people haircuts. Like, sometimes I just want to forgive myself for believing Bawumia. Sometimes I'm like, how did I believe this guy? But anyway, so if this government decided to impose or whatever, charge the levy on this charitable goods, sometimes you just have to ask yourself, do they understand the economics, right? Because at the end of the day, in economics, and that's where Baumia say he's what whiskey. If you impose taxes on commodities, what happens is that the sellers will also transfer these charges onto customers, and what will happen is that prices of goods in the economy will increase. And I'm not surprised we are having a lot of inflation, or inflation figures are high in the country. Right now, last month inflation jumped up to 26%, right? So you see a government, you didn't invest in the purchasing of this product or this goods, this medicines. Some people out of their good works have bought all this stuff for you, and you still cannot make it tax-free or levy-free. You still cannot remove all these charges for these goods to be cleared. I saw on social media they cleared 8% or whatever, and they were trying to do some media PR. I'm like, you guys are shameless. But at the end of the day, this doesn't surprise me, right? This is a government that it's not transparent about its financial dealings. They collect the levies and they don't even provide good accountability for them. Let's look at that SML thing they did with the GRA. You wanted to give almost 100 million contract annually for 10 years. At the expense of the what GRA is doing. You just want another company to get $100 million every year for 10 years. During COVID, they gave contract to some people to collect levies at the airport, and there was no accountability. So my problem is, if they even collect these taxes, right, or these levies, they don't even account for all these collected money are not accounted for. So that's actually one of the things I'm worried about. Okay, you collected the taxes, you collected the levies, but you don't even account for them. So I think they should bow their head in shame. They collect all these monies and they don't use them for anything. And it's a shame that they cannot just clear all these goods so that people can get their medicines and whatever, and the process of the goodness that this company decided to donate this thing can come to a good end. And instead of trying to get these goods, stay at this port, and maybe some of these goods or this medicine may even go to waste. So they should be really ashamed of themselves.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So Zita, again, related to these, contradictions that we have heard over the years, and I want to look at this more in a political sense, right? Is Bawumia's conduct going to help Ghana's politics going forward? Because you can see the NDC is capitalizing on these contradictions as their main campaign message. Is that going to be a check on future politicians in terms of, right, going around making grandiose promises that they probably have no intention of keeping or haven't even thought through in terms of the practicality of what they're saying? Is there a positive thing that we can take from his whole politics that he has played over the period?
Oh, yes. Like people say, the internet never forgets, and I'm glad that the advancement in technology have allowed for us to, compare people's positions on issues in the past and their current performance. I think Dr. Bawumia, my learned colleague, seems to have selective amnesia, because in his recent campaign promises, he said, he's going to give tax amnesty to businesses. However, that is not the reality. Again, I did my national service at the Ghana Ports and Harbors Authority because I grew up in Tema, so I did my national service at the ports. And my younger brother, in collaboration with my cousin, they do take cars to Ghana. And so yesterday, when I was preparing for today's discussion, I called him and I said, you do these, you send cars to Ghana. It's part of his other businesses in Ghana. What are your thoughts and what are your sentiments? And he said that, you know, you buy a car in America for about $4,000. You ship it to Ghana about $1,000, $1,500, and then you get to Ghana and you have to clear the car for about $6,000. It is way more than the amount you bought the car, and therefore, consequently, his business is affected because he can't break even. He can't break even. And when you increase the car of the price of the car, it's going to be in Ghana for a prolonged time with no buyers for it. So he was like, you know, taking some of the taxes off will be good. And even in preparation for today's discussion, I went on the internet and I chanced on a video of Roland Walker of TV3 having a discussion with, of course, a member of the MPP and the NDC. And the MPP representative consistently kept saying that, oh, there are no new taxes. There are no new taxes. We have just increased the current. These taxes existed in the time of the NDC. There was no COVID taxes during the time of the NDC. You have two COVID taxes, network charge COVID-19 health, and then COVID-19 health recovery levy. These are new taxes. You know, what has the NHIL got to do with people bringing in important goods that would affect their business positively? So for me, I'm glad we are seeing these contradictions, and that you know, social media have allowed us to hold people accountable. And so my point is, definitely this is going to be a sounding board for all politicians, that whatever you say will be archived in history, and when the opportunity comes, we are going to refer you back. I think that, you know, Obama is singing to the birds. The young Ghanaians are actually, even people who are sympathizers of the MPP, looking at the things I read online, are extremely disappointed, and they see the high levels of contradiction in his statements. And so this is going to be a learning point for all politicians, that we are in a time where the internet never forgets, and there's a digital footprint. So when you have the opportunity to make an impact, make a good impact. If not, we will refer you back, and that will be just a shame for you. So definitely I agree that it will be a warning. It is a warning to all current politicians, and they can see how they move, because we will remind them of what they said in the past and how they performed today.
Yeah. Okay. James, being the in-house political scientist, and again, sometimes when you criticize, people ask you for solutions, right? And so what do you think should be the way forward in terms of, I mean, I think we've talked about the accountability bit of it, in terms of holding their feet to the fire and expecting them to mean what they said. But in terms of this, the broader outlook of these economic issues, right? A government comes into power and they decide to impose all kinds of ridiculous taxes. I mean, look at the taxes that GM was mentioning on the imported car. So as citizens, how do we really hold these individuals into account, especially when they're imposing taxes that are just purely meaningless and almost like being your pocket being picked in the marketplace?
Yes, the security lineup always follows the political lineup, right? The security of a country depends on how our politics is structured. And when I talk about security, I'm not talking about security in the sense of someone probably guarding somewhere. It's the survival of the country. All right? Every country's priority, the number one thing is how do you survive, just as individuals. Your life is your utmost thing that you have to think about. So is a country. And so as a developing country like ours, we have some natural fault lines. These natural fault lines are a lot. Under development is one. People can feed themselves, all right, broadly. And we have our ethnic, divisions also. my co-panelist Zita talk about that broadly, right? So these are all things that we have to consider as a country. A country is just like an individual. Your survival is your number one thing. But how do we make sure this country survives moving forward, right? How do we repair this hole that we found ourselves in, and then make sure that we give meaning, we give hope to our people in the future? The first thing we have to do is to be very honest with ourselves as Ghanaians, that the survival of our country is in our hands. Everybody. It's not only just a political party, NDC, who have to come and save the country, but to reject NPP outright, reject the message, because we have not seen anything that this party has done the past 8 years. They rather dug a hole for us. So this election is going to be very crucial. Everybody must be on board so that we can save the country. And then by so doing, we mean business to build a country rather than building individuals like Akufo-Addo has done. For instance, he has just appointed a new Senate director, which is very complicated, right? Replacing one director with another one who is from his family line. That sort of mindset doesn't make a country, all right? For us to have a country and be proud of, as Ghanaians, wherever you go, people look at you, you are from Ghana, we have to consciously build that. We have to intentionally do that. And that means each one of us will have to be part of it, to make sure that we hold our politicians accountable, particularly this party that is in power now, Akufo-Addo and Bawumia, to make sure that this does not happen in the future. Because at the end, it's the future of the country. The future of our country, the present and the future, the resources we have. Let's take, for instance, the water resources that have been polluted, right? How do you run a country and pollute all the water resources around? That is a security issue. Broadly speaking, the security doesn't mean we're going to be invaded by someone, but how do we make sure that we have water for ourselves? That will provide us good health into the future. These are all very important things that for the past 8 years, we've not seen any progress at all. What we've seen is this administration has taken us back. And Dr. Bawumia is working very hard to come to power, tell lies, do anything possible, do all kinds of things so that he can maintain the sort of system that the NPP has put in place, Akufo-Addo, so others will not see. And that is not a good future for us. If we have to have a future for ourselves, then this is the time. This election is going to be more important than any other election Ghana had ever had because of the issues at stake. Because we have a candidate who will say anything, contradict himself, and still holding on to those issues one way or the other, trying to bamboozle Ghanaians, right? Trying to hoodwink them with his statements so that he could be elected. But I don't see the NPP going to win when it comes to the voting, to be honest with you, except that two things. They're going to manipulate the system with the EC to declare them winners. That's all they can do. There's nothing else. Or two, suppress the voting around the country, as we already talked about. So I'm talking about all this in terms of our future, in terms of the security of our country. We all have to be out there and make sure that we prevent this government from succeeding itself. That's the only way we can have a future. Mark, you are muted.
All right, yeah. All right, Hajia. How about those who say these two political parties are the same, right? I mean, James is saying that this is perhaps one of the most important elections of the Fourth Republic. But if we all recall and be honest, the vote against the NDC in 2016 was overwhelming. And there was a reason that happened. So how about those who say that these two political parties are the same and that, merely taking one out and bringing the other back in is just like you are switching players, but the outcome is still going to be the same? What do you say to that? Hajia.
Wow, I think I lost connection, so I missed a lot. But
yeah, so okay, let me just a little bit.
Yeah.
I was saying that James is saying this election should be, the turnout should be great. and the NPP should be kicked out of power. And in doing so, effectively, it's going to be the NDC that would come back into power. And if we all recall, it was an overwhelming vote against NDC in 2016, and there were reasons why that was the case. So what about those who say that these two parties are the same and that you're not going to get anything different if you kick NPP out and bring NDC back in?
Hello?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
It happened again, but I'll just take
Okay,
it from
all right.
where
Yeah,
I,
okay.
I heard you. If you look at the West, for instance, I would look at US. I'll take US. US have about just 7 tax brackets, and you can see the sort of development that their taxes bring to their country, and that's because they want people to know that it is a necessary thing to do. But taking it back to Ghana, all these taxes that we pay on even stuff to even common things like toothpaste, even cabbage, to cook with cabbage. I mean, you get taxed on it if you're buying, depending on where you're buying it from. Talking about voter turnout, voting. What do I say? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. It keeps going round.
Oh, okay.
Talking about the voting turnout in 2016, there were legitimate reasons why people voted against NDC. That is, if they voted against NDC, because we've seen a lot of malpractices, over the period on the part of the EC and then the MPP. So depending on that, but then they had reasons. They were talking about Dumsor. They were talking about so many things. But in 2020, we were able to convince people that NPP are not coming to do anything different. At least we had developmental stuff that we could use, especially our infrastructure, we could use to attest to the things that NDC had done, comparing to what we are seeing today. And yet NDC were rejected because of these things. Now, the thing I see they have an advantage over NDC, or they used against NDC, are the propaganda that they play. So what NDC needs to do is to begin to show the reality to people, educate them. Like they brought the Green Book. The Green Book was a testament to what JM and his government did, which were to what do I call it? The advantage of Ghanaians, because these are things that people needed in hospitals, the roads, the schools, everything that the country needed, and JM was able to touch on every aspect of it. But NPP came, and then they are showing Ghanaians that we only came to chop. So I don't think that NPP are going to win this election, but NDC cannot just sit down and relax and be complacent about the election because they think people are tired, and then they are seeing what is happening. We saw what happened in 2020. People were tired. People were complaining. The same things we are seeing happened in 2020, but yet they were able to manipulate it to their advantage or to their gain. So I think NDC have to get up and do the work. Like Zita suggested, do a door-to-door campaign, even though it was done in 2020. But I want to see more. I want to see more education done. I want to see more visuals. I want to see more argument, more debates. I want to see more people out there. I want them to engage the grassroots, because we are the drivers of change. We are the people who can send a message home. I want to see, like when we started this, I said I see some of us struggle to use words. Why? Because I told some of my co-panelists here that we need to come to the level of every Ghanaian's understanding, where they would understand the simple English. If you would, sometimes I would suggest we even bring in local languages, because we are here to drive a message home. So sometimes the big English beats me. I don't want us to lose some of the opportunity to be able to help our people. Yeah, you're laughing. You remember I told you that. So sometimes I see it in some of us that we're trying or struggling to find common words to be able to help the, common Ghanaian to be able to understand what we are saying. I think that is what they were able. Listen to Akufo-Addo's language. He was able to beat Ghanaians with slangs. Look at Bawumia's language. He was able to convince people with English, but now it is for us to decode those things, use common language. Oh my God, I can hear myself, so it's confusing me. Use things, visuals to be.
Okay. We lost Hajia. Yeah. But, okay, I'll just switch to somebody else, and then if she comes back on, then, but it seemed like Hajia was speaking to Chairman James when she mentioned the big English. But,
well, if that's the case, then if I may come in here briefly.
Okay, and then we'll go to Zita after, because I think she was taking notes, and I wanted to know what's going on there.
All right, no problem. I'll give way to Zita.
Okay,
Zita,
Zita, let's hear what you were scribbling. Well,
no, James is my elder brother. Elfo, go ahead.
Oh. All right, sure. Thank you. Yes, I think Hajia was talking about being able to convince the people about the importance of the elections that we're going to have. And not only that, the importance of our country broadly, communicate to them. And I agree that the NDC in particular, which is the alternative out there, a better alternative, it has to repackage the message so that we can get to Ghanaians. It's very important. But your initial question was that a lot of people...
I'm back. What happened?
Well, I guess your internet connection probably messed up.
I was hearing myself so many times, but Dr. James, go ahead. Maybe I can come back later.
Yes.
Thank you. I'll do that quickly. So your initial statement was that a lot of Ghanaians think that the two leading political parties are not different. Let me just say that is not right. Americans would probably say that, to claim that these two political parties are treated down and treated D, which means they are not the same. They are the same. It's not true. It's absolutely not true. And I know we're going to talk about other things like infrastructure, because the government had launched a platform for that. But when you look at all the performances of NDC, and of course, and the NPP as of now, you will never say these two parties are the same. There is a sharp contrast, right? In terms of what their principles are, in terms of what these two parties want to do. The NPP is nothing but, property owning democracy. That's what they believe in. And Akufo-Addo administration has demonstrated that to grab. That's why they are even on the verge of collapsing the country, because it has benefited them. Take a look at JM's record. Let's not go even far back. JM, we know, is the nation's builder. Look at the projects, the number of projects he has built. His administration basically moved Ghana forward. And so Ghanaians should look at this. They should be very fair to themselves and say, look, are these two political parties the same? No, they are not. The philosophy or the principle of the NPP is different. And we have seen that. The philosophy or the principles, the governing principles of the NDC, completely different. It's about people and very inclusive. And that's why JM did not limit his administration, the performance to any particular region, but covered almost every country, every part of the country, I should say. Last week, we were talking about infrastructure. We talked about different parts of the region of the country and the infrastructural development that the NDC had undertaken under JM. So these two parties are not the same. And Ghanaians should look at whether they are feeling the same, they feel the hope that the NDC gave Ghanaians, and of course the hopelessness that the NPP has injected in the system, and they will see the difference.
Okay.
Chairman, if I could mention some of the performance comparing JM and this MPP government.
Okay.
So,
but before you go there, I just have a quick question around that, right? So are we now saying that Ghanaians should be compelled to take the lesser of two evils? Is there a certain level or a level of expectation that Ghanaians want to be met, but somehow our political parties just do not have the capacity to meet that bar, said that now we have no option but to select among these, between these two parties, and essentially, pick the lesser of two. Is that the case? And then if it's, and I would imagine it's along the lines Nee wants to take it to, but yeah, let's hear from you.
Okay, so I was just trying to, these are what we have. We can dream, but these are the two options we have. So let's compare what we have. If you look at NDC, total debts for NDC as of December 2016, 120 billion. NPP, almost 600, 700 billion. When NDC were in power, we didn't have the number of oil fields NPP has right now. Revenue received.
What the hell is happening to me?
Let's see. Yeah.
Revenue received under MPP is almost 830 billion Ghana cedis. That's almost 3 times what NDC received, of around 250 billion. Debt to GDP ratio, we are over 100%. NDC was an average around 56%. Inflation went high to like 54%. Now it's back to close to 30%. NDC was around 15%. If you look at exchange rate, now we are around 13 cedis to $1. The highest it went under NDC was around 4.1 cedis. If you look at debt service, NDC never defaulted on the debt. MPP has defaulted, giving haircut to people. So these two people are not the same. If you look at interest rate was around 20-25% under NDC. Under MPP, it's around 40%. These two governments are not the same. Central bank financing, these people have printed almost 60 billion Ghana cedis just for financing. NDC didn't do that. The growth rate under NDC is better than MPP with all these oil fields they have. Budget deficit, it's higher under MPP. No haircuts under NDC. So if people talk about, let's compare MPP and NDC and they are not the same, those people are actually NPP supporters who do not want to, come to reality with what we have. They are actually bad than I will not even compare them. MPP is far better than NDC is far better than MPP when it comes to all these things. And this is not even talking about infrastructure, right? We've not even talked about infrastructure. We know JM built UGMC, which saved life during the COVID period. We know what he did with the airport. Now I go to Ghana, I'm like, wow, this is a good airport, right? So we can play all the, here and there, but play games. But the truth is, JM actually and the NDC are doing better than the MPP. So I don't like the argument of, they are the same. No, they are not. And we have to be frank here. These are the two options we have. Until we get somebody who, of course, there are corruption in both parties, right? So until we get a president or somebody who try to make sure this corruption and other things are reduced, which I think JM tried to do, but at the end of the day, I think JM performed far better than what these people did with all their promises. So they are not the same.
Okay, all right. Okay, I think Zita wants a bite of this, so let's hear her.
I'm just going to keep it succinct so we move on to the issue of the performance tracker. But I like Dr. Nee's passion in bringing the data. And
I think Nee is still upset that he kind of had confidence in Bawumia. Yeah.
I think but it's okay. It's okay. We live and we learn. But just to touch on what Haja was saying about, some of us using big English and bringing the discussion to the level. I think that different groups appeal to different people, and positionality is important. For some of us, our engagement here might appeal to more of the intellectual class, which is not a bad thing. And so I like the fact that she did emphasize the door to door-to-door campaign. But again, in that we should bring people of all walks of life, you know, people on the intellectual spectrum, people who can speak the local language and really connect. Because in as much as like I come from Ghana, I come from the Volta region, my airway might not be that strong. If you take me to the Volta region to campaign, people will see and say, oh, this woman, you know, they'll call me, oh, I may actually your vote that place. It means like I'm from abroad. I give the vibe of, you know, I'm from abroad. And so they might not be able to connect with me as such. And so creating the space for different people to connect with each other is important. And so to say that we should all appeal to everybody will be difficult. Some of us will appeal to a different a group of people, which is equally important. And
damn, again.
So I just wanted to say that, but overall good discussion. And I like Dr. Nee's passion. I've never seen this side of him before today.
Okay. All right.
Am I back?
Yes, you're back.
My God. I don't know. The ghost must be crazy today.
Yeah,
I mean,
yes.
Before I go into what Dr. Zita was saying, I'm not a fan of mincing words. I like to say things the way they are, because at the end of the day, what we seek to do here is to make sure that we elect right and good leaders to govern our country. And we in the diaspora are the better ones to do that. Now, as far as making this program relatable, it's very important. Sometimes we listen to the opinions outside and try to apply it. Yesterday or the day before yesterday, myself and Dr. Mack were having this discussion. Sometimes you have to do what.
Okay, I think her internet has failed again. Okay, so you know what? Let's move on to the issue of the performance tracker, and then if Hajia gets back in again, we would let her continue her submission. So I mean, we woke up a couple of days ago to a press conference of Kojo Pong Nkrumah launching the so-called performance tracker. And I think the whole idea is that citizens will be able to keep track of government activities and on the basis of that, keep them accountable. That's the way he characterized it, right? And so I will leave it to you guys. And I think there's already, you know, initial impressions of the how you know the performance of the performance tracker itself, right? And so that is something that we can go into.
So, Dr. Gala, if you can I get the first bite on this?
Yeah, definitely, they come in. Yes.
Anyway, so do you have the video to play, or we can?
Okay,
go?
I think you sent me a video on this, and let me. Okay, let's start it. Yeah.
Up on the gold, up on the timber, diamond, Ghana, yeah, woyo. I am a mama. Tell you them they suffer, bola shayam got a Ghana cause radio. I am politicians need to be, me buabusa koli, or move a giant throw goli. MP Kwana say, MP say, on your kwani, a do 7 December, MP, or your kwani, or per voting to Ube who MP, no trakwani, or burying a kwani, or burying a kwani. Emperor Selassie, I judge, still I want them manipulate the people, so it go hand them no one hear the truth, I tell you, it go hand them. Jaja go find them anywhere them go. They drag it to Accra.
And Miss Onete, Yamian, a very fake cranny, and I decided to get see away a president, every child, Yanya Hospital Cassia, you bet me to Madino. The Yagan say, and a young formula advance man, yes, yet than President Mahama. You knew my dear, no, a biasu at dancing for Menaso. Yagaza, Yamus is here, our accident, or because accident is. By Yamus is here. With Musa, Nipa, Bravo, Accra, in Padanki, Toa, dear, war Accra, send me, but you am in one. I am in one. Up on the gold, up on the timber, diamond, Ghana, yeah, woyo. I am in one. Tell you them they suffer, bola shayam got a Ghana cause radio. I am in one. I am in one, Kasa, Seme, hey.
enough you them selling pure water. For just say him head cause he's failing gata. Mamia cause your banu kwetino. Aheya, nipa boni fuachino yeah no nyadwa. What a bad system. Them trust politicians but them not feed them. Do what you say and not pretend to the masses. Them won't control them like them they in our classes. Them wanted for you to work for them. Not for them to work for you. Go away. Moshe bought the banner saying, they can't go see the main politics.
But we are, me can't as obey me and Nekwa.
I'm not sure.
So I'm going to see toilet. But we are playing the chief material in a correct. Only we are over Gary. Ugari we are obey. Only we are over Gary. Toilet in wow.
Enough you them selling pure water. For just say him head cause he's failing gata. Mamia cause your banu kwetino. Aheya, nipa boni fuachino yeah no nyadwa.
Okay. All right. So Ni, I mean, if you have any more comments on it,
Yeah. So what I was trying to say is I have 5 things to say on this performance tracker. First one is last time we discussed the National Cathedral project. They've already spent around 50 million dollars on this project. It was the promise of all promises. Priority
is it on the performance tracker?
No, it wasn't on it. That's my point. They did not include a promise to God on this tracker, and it shows the failure. Something you spend $50 million on it, and you couldn't even put that a whole picture on the performance track. At least tell us you've spent some money on it, but it decided to take it away. Second point, they've issued some statements saying that 67 projects were included mistakenly, which is just a politically correct way of saying 67 projects were stolen, because what they do is they lack real achievement. They included, as we saw, a lot of toilets projects, and I think that's what we'll remember them by. They are a party of developing and building toilets. That's all they know. Also, they listed private companies, a lot of private companies on the performance tracker, and people have used their own money for investment, and you just want to steal. Again, they do not have no real achievement. So I get really, really pissed off when I hear people saying these two parties are the same. They are not. We see one party trying to enrich, trying to make sure they control every sector by stealing, and one party is trying to develop, bring the real development that we need. That is infrastructure, that is roads, that is schools. That is what we need in at this stage of our economy. But another party come and all they care is flying private, pay a lot of amount of money for the president to sit in private airplanes all around. At the end of the day, they don't do anything. Property owning people. I didn't understand what that means what that meant until I met this government. And the last point, I'm a professor. I'll give an A to my student if my student is able to come up with a project like this. But if I'm an investor and I want to invest on an app, and this person working on an app, on this app, brought this to me as a final product, that person is not getting paid. This is a badly designed app, and I don't know why they even wasted money to do the PR on it. Again, they said they have the men, but we know what where they got us to, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the question is how much money was spent in building that performance tracker, which obviously is having performance problems, right? But Zita, I mean, is this a self? Did they call upon themselves? If you like, is it a self-sabotaging thing they did by introducing this performance tracker? Because a lot of things are coming to light that should have probably been swept under the carpet.
I mean, I hope Hajia's internet is able to work so she can come and finish her submission. I would say that this is a good attempt. I try to be objective. I think this is a good attempt to kind of build a place where Kojo Nkrumah calls it a data center. That is what he called a data center, where we can, there's a collation of data regarding the things that the MPP has done. And so, yes, I would say the initiative itself, because according to Kojo Nkrumah, it was initially tagged as the delivery tracker in 2020, and from 2020 to 2024, it has metamorphosed from being a delivery tracker to a performance tracker. So that in itself puts situation into context. And I do agree with you, Mark. We want to know how much went into this particular endeavor. But again, it is just shooting themselves in the foot, because it provides an opportunity for us to really look at the work and overly critically analyze the contributions of the MPP, from the time they gained power in 2016 till now. And so I think ideally it's a good idea, but in terms of delivery, it's not really, it doesn't look too good. We want to know how much went into that in developing the performance tracker. Kojo Nkrumah said it's a data collection center. And one thing he said is that independent people are allowed to write articles to cross-check the different projects that they've listed on the page. And so these are interesting times. It will shoot them in the foot. And the fact that Dr. Nish said that video, stealing project and listing it as DS again provides the opportunity for us to critique. But at least we can all go to one website and see all the things that is going on in Ghana and be able to determine if the MPP deserves to be voted in. So for me, those are my perspective. I would say that, again, like Barack Obama said, some people might not be a fan of Barack Obama, but Ghana and other African countries need an independent institution. And so for me, this is a good initiative, but can we allow an independent body list the projects so we know which one is truly the MPP? Because what is looking now is like, it's looking very politicized. Like it looks very politicized and a political tool for the MPP to maneuver their way into power with this performance tracker. So I would want to see an independent body vetting out the genesis, completion, and the current state of each project, and who deserves to be credited for the project. That is what I want to see.
Yeah. I mean, Professor James, we complain about the availability of data all the time. And I think they may have inadvertently provided a tool of accountability and also, the supply of data that typically is unavailable. Though I doubt the intention, the name itself speaks for itself, as Zita said, performance tracker, right? How about if it was a name that just simply meant a place for collecting information of existing infrastructure and perhaps the year that they were put in place, so that if it was for the purposes of data, we can go in there, but we'll take it, honestly, right? Yeah. And especially it's a crowd, there's some element of crowdsourcing in it. The fact that people can actually point out which one is a mistaken project and which one is complete and incomplete. I mean, I would take it.
Yes, I think, thank you. I think the performance tracker, as you said, is nothing but just part of the process of telling Ghanaians lies, what they've been able to do, which is not true. I was just going through the performance tracker myself to see what they have listed. And by the way, that video is very good. It tells us that they are stealing projects and claiming them. That's what they do. And so, for instance, when you look at the performance tracker on the page, they tell you the one village, one dam that they had promised. See, how many villages do we have in Ghana? And this is their performance tracker. I'm not making it up. I'm looking at it right now on my screen. It says one village, one dam. The government has completed 6. All right, uncompleted 0. So total 0. All right. The question is, how many villages do we have in Ghana? They promised they were going to have just one village, one dam across the country. So far, the NPP government, even their own record saying they only completed 6, 1V, 1D. That is ridiculous. And that tells you who they are. How many villages do we have in Ghana? Maybe we have only 6 villages. And so those 6 villages that they have completed, and this I'm looking at their website, construction of 1V facility, and these are all in the northeast, all right? Northeast, I've not been there before, but Jawuni, 1, Samini, Bongini, Zarantiga, Wudwa, and Bangu. These are the 3 areas. I mean, 6 areas.
Yeah, so James is butchering the names.
Yes, I'm sorry. My northern brothers and sisters, forgive me. Baumia called for this. Baumia is making us butcher names that we know. But how do you claim that you have completed only 6 VD, 1V1F when the country has more villages? And so I mentioned those names just to find out if those individuals, people who are living in those areas, if there are truly 1 village, 1 dam completed by this administration. All right. Secondly, if you even have this performance tracker, you need your citizens to have consistent supplier of power to be able to check them. This government had almost 8 years to build on the energy supply, but look at where we are. We now have, problems with electricity. When JM left office, Ghana was a net supplier of electricity or energy to neighboring countries. We're actually exporting energy to neighboring countries like Burkina Faso and Cote d'Ivoire, and then of course Togo. But right now we cannot. So where do we get the energy to even do this performance tracker? Thirdly, whatever they have online, which is still a lie, Ghanaians don't feel this in their pockets. Right? A lot of people, as you all know, those of us who are out here, we have to send money to our relatives. They keep asking because they cannot survive. School fees we have to pay, hospital bills we have to pay. So this performance tracker does not put money, doesn't put food on the table for the people. It doesn't reflect on the pocket of in the pocket of our people. So what are they after? It's just a part of the long process of telling Ghanaians lies to bamboozle Ghanaians into voting for them, but this has to be checked in the bud.
Okay. All right, Haji, it seems like they are back again.
Oh my God, I'm so upset. I don't even know what to say. I feel like I'm in Ghana right now with the internet connection.
So, okay, no more complaints about internet in Ghana.
I think it's a good initiative because at least it gives Ghanaians the chance to be able to compare the 2 governments. This is what I was about to make, the point I was about to make before I went off. I think that the Green Book was able to tell a lot on what JM had done. If you look at the history of Ghana, it looks like all the developmental projects or things that we're enjoying today started from the Rawlinses. It's always NDC. When they come, it's development. This development, what do they call it? The what tracker? It would reveal performance tracker, would reveal a lot about MPP because Ghanaians will be able to go and compare. Thanks to Kelvin Taylor, a lot of these things were able to be revealed to Ghanaians as lies, as deceptive, as projects that didn't even exist, as projects that didn't even complete and all that. So Ghanaians have the opportunity now to compare between JM performance and MPP's performance. JM only was in power for how long? 4 years, almost 4 years, because they frustrated him for the very beginning of his governance. And then MPP has been in power for almost 8 years. But if you look at the Green Book, and this is where I was coming with this education thing, the majority of voters are not literates. And they are the ones that makes all these decisions by their votes or by voting. So this is why I said we should be able to reach out to the majority of these people who are the greater voters to understand what is at stake, why they need to vote wisely, why they need to reject all these incentives that they bring to them, all the monies and the bribes that they give them to be able to vote wisely, so that it will be in their interest at the end of the day when they have a good leader who is going to work for them. if you look at what they're now struggling to put together, is just a testament that they haven't done anything. How does our people what do they understand about this performance tracker? Some of them don't know what, because it's in English. So I want Ghanaians, NDC, to put in things, or not just NDC, there are other political parties, to put in materials, especially visual materials, in the various languages, which is why I advise some of our panelists here to tone down the language, so that people who are not able, which is where Dr. Zita disagreed with me, to understand. I see Dr. James struggling sometimes to make a point, because we have this in our mind. Sometimes we want to reach the greater people, not because of us, because they are the decision makers. We are in the diaspora. We don't have much votes as much as they do, or say as much as they do, even though we influence the voting processes and all that. And that's because we reveal to them, we expose the things to them that would make a difference in their choices and decision making. So NDC should capitalize on this, their performance tracker, and expose the lies and expose the rot. NDC put a lot down, laid a lot of foundation before they came. Some of these procurement things that happened, the monies that they put down before NDC came to power, reveal it. I want them to take advantage of this to tell Ghanaians, we had already put down monies for some of these projects, and still they are not there. We had already started this project. A lot of the things that they have are NDC projects. Why? Because they think Ghanaians would like to see that. But did they do anything to help Ghanaians see that? No. Did they do anything to help alleviate the lifestyles of Ghanaians? No. The Packers are hurting. Not only the Packers, our healthcare system is hurting. Our children are hurting. Their education is in tatters right now. Our businesses are hurting. Everything is hurting. So this performance tracker is a good initiative, but it is going to hurt they themselves, because their lies is going to expose them. Their unfinished projects will expose them. They have 8 months to go to be sent out. What will they do between now to the 8 months? Ghanaians should put the heat on them to be able to see, for them to be able to see how they have destroyed our country, how they have made a mockery of our country, how they have stolen from our citizens and taxpayers, how they have mismanaged our economy. So for me, I think the performance tracker will be the judge. Like James said, posterity will be, our judge. My judge. The Green Book and then the performance tracker would now be competing. These things we saw, a lot of people are now in villages trying to make sense of what is in the performance tracker. And again, thanks to Kelvin Taylor, Ghanaians should thank Kelvin Taylor a lot, because if not for him, we would not have known the damage NPP had done to Ghanaians, and we would not have known the development NDC brought to Ghana. And I just hope that they will take advantage of this, and also us, because for me, to be honest, I'm doing my part, because when Ghana goes down, I go down. When my family heads in Ghana, I head, because at the end of the day, we're all contributors one way or the other to the economy, and also by supporting our family members. So I think the reason I said we should be able to reach out to the majority of the voters is so that we will speak in a language, we'll be able to resonate, or they will be able to resonate with us and why we are saying what we are saying. That was my position on what I was saying at the end of the day. They matter, we matter, and Ghana matters. MPP have nothing to say, and if we don't let them know that, the same thing would happen. I've been at places where people are taking fish heads, people are taking Maggie cubes to vote. And it's just because of the poverty rate in Ghana. So
I was about to vote into power.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So
Yes.
and it's all because people want food to eat. They can't even have the 3 daily meals. And so whatever they get, still, you'll be able to convince them with that. And what's more insulting is during election, you see them go to them and then tell them that's because they have been able to study the Ghanaian minds and know that it's only a matter of us going to lie to them. It's only a matter of us going to promise them. It's a matter of us going them to show them what doesn't exist. So NDC should be able to go in more and harder to show them the truth, to tell them the truth, to compare the two, and be able to also tell them what they will be doing and how they will be doing it, which of course I see the former president doing, but he alone cannot do it. And that's why I think it is also our collective responsibility and duty to be able to wake up Ghanaians to understand that a vote for NPP is going to sink us, in gutters that we don't want to see. We're already there. I mean, even though they say a dead goat no longer fears a knife, but we owe it to our children, we owe it to our vulnerable ones, especially we owe it to our own selves. So, I mean, it's very important for us to be able to reach the majority group. And I want this program to be able to, make that possible for a lot of people. We hear comments. Since the conception of this program, I've been getting calls and I've been getting comments about how we can make this accessible to the people in the far distance, like Kelvin Taylor is doing. If you notice, Kelvin Taylor's whole thing is about making sure that everybody is able to hear and understand what he's doing. And he's not doing it for the NDC. He's doing it for Ghana because he's concerned about Ghana, because he knows where this MPP government is taking Ghana. He knows what they are capable of doing. And then he also knows that because of the level of the high rate of illiteracy in Ghana, people are not understanding the importance of what NDC or John Mahama is saying. So we have to be the drivers of that change. We have to make it possible and easy for them to be able to understand these things. So I hope we consider that, and I hope that NDC will make sure that they have people to go in, especially with this performance track, to tell people, to wake them up, to see that it's lies. Show us, ask people to go to where they have indicated that the projects exist, to go and take videos, interact with the people of those communities, and ask them. If you ask me, I can do that for my community. I have access to that because I come from wherever, and I can tell you that where the projects are, I have access to that, and I'll be able to tell you this doesn't exist, this exists, and where it is, the percentage at which the project is at. So it's very important for us to consider these things. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Well, on my part, I think we are in times in Ghana's politics that it seems like bad behavior is not going to be rewarded, right? And that's one thing that excites me. Even if there's this argument that the two political parties are not the same, I think holding them accountable one after the other is going to progressively lead us into where we aspire to be as a country in terms of what we expect from democracy, right? People feel that the tree of democracy is not bearing fruits, but I think with the nurturing that we are giving it in terms of holding politicians accountable, it's going to get to that point where it will begin to bear fruit, and bad behavior cannot be rewarded. And that's what I would just say to many people out there. But we have a couple more minutes, and if anybody has anything more to say about this, you're more than welcome. But there's a fun video here that I wanted to play, and then maybe we can, just bounce off of it and have a more humorous ending to the program, rather than always being serious about the dire conditions of our country, right? So, anything more, or should I play the video?
Yes,
yeah.
Something more.
Okay.
That one, please.
We
One,
also-
that
okay.
one, the one pattern. But
All
you
right.
can
Okay. Yes. Hajia. you
Okay,
can go ahead,
I
yes.
just wanted to take my chance since I didn't get to.
Yeah.
speak
Oh yeah,
much.
definitely.
We've come to a point where Ghana has been degraded to a level where girls are blackmailing men, girls are using their bodies and all that. We have to be able to shape the mindset of Ghanaians that Ghana can work. Ghana is working, and Ghana would work under a good leadership. We have to be able to, let Ghanaians know that there are leaders and there are leaders. There are leaders who would come and tell us what we want. They want us to hear, and there are leaders who will actually work. We know them. We have seen them. We have tested them, and we've seen what they have done. And so it's no brainer for us to even sit and ask whether or not bad behavior will be rewarded. We saw what happened in 2020, people did bad things, but yet, like I said, they were able to slip. So I want NDC to not take this election for granted. I want them to work. I want them to wake up. I want them to be able to integrate, to help Ghanaians to see. I keep saying this because I know what NPP is capable of doing. They are able to drive this shenanigans that we are seeing come up recently with drama and all that. I'm hearing that there were some registration things that were going on in Kumasi, and this is alleged. And that's because they are trying to divert people's attention from that. We should stay woke, because at this point, our life is dependent on the outcome of the election that is coming. At the end of the day, 8 years has been too long of suffering for us to sit and depend on whether or not Ghanaians are tired or see what's happening. We need to sit up and work. And that will depend on how much we need this. We need this to go in our favor.
Okay. All right. Absolutely. Yes.
Yes, I just want to say that to go back to our first issue that we discussed, which had to do with the EC, that Ghanaians should know that the EC is not doing a good job. It has a track record of that. And then the foundation, again, the foundation of our democracy, whatever we're trying to do as a nation depends on the EC to do a good job, to have integrity, credibility, and make sure that things are secured. Otherwise, forget about everything. We've been through a system that we all agree that we're going to do something different, which is democracy. And the EC has been asked specifically to serve as the referee to make sure we have a country. If this EC is not going to do a good job, come this year election, that is the end. Because Ghanaians are tired. We can continue to be acted upon like NDP has done for the past 8 years. So we should all be on our feet and then be dramatizing, make sure that the EC does the right thing. Otherwise, forget about our country in a very bad way. Not saying that something bad is going to happen, but we are just tired. We can't see NPP to be in power to cover the crime they have done. We have to go back to a crime scene and see what kind of crime they have committed against the country. Crime against Ghana, crime against the ancestors, crime against those of us who are living, and crime against people who are yet to be born. They have to be held accountable.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Zita, did you have something to say, or
are we submitting our concluding thoughts?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's conclude. Yes.
Sure.
Final thoughts.
Yes. Final thoughts. I definitely agree with my brother James on the issue of the Electoral Commission. Based on research, electoral vandalism and disturbances have happened in the North Tong district, Nantong, and Takwa districts due to electoral material installation and vandalization and missing BVDs. And so it is a pattern, even though the MPP is conveniently saying that, oh, it has nothing to do with us, refer to the police and law enforcement. We know that any government in power, especially a government that is extremely hungry to maintain power, is not isolated from how the security forces operate in Ghana. And so telling the NDC representatives who are raising concerns that they should defer to the police and that it has nothing to do with them is highly disturbing. Let us all be vigilant. And most importantly, Ejisu again is at risk now for another by-election because unfortunately the sitting member of parliament lost his life. And so there is a consistent pattern here by saying that it happened in North Tong, it happened in Nantong, it happened in Takwa. There is a consistent pattern of vandalization and tampering with electoral materials. And so we should all be vigilant as we are all jeering for the post-2024 elections is going to be an election of ideas. It's going to be an election of proven record. We are going to compare past performances per current performances. There is a swift change that is happening, even and I understand the sentiments of Hajia, but even among people who are not literate or not educated, there is a rising sentiment. We just need to look at what happened to Adra Safo and how these market women said, you can't take us for a fool, and just do whatever you want to do and come back, give us yogurt and think you can bamboozle your way through. Even among the streets, there is this level of awakening. But I definitely agree with her that we need to intensify the effort, reach out to those people, and make sure that we are making them understand what is at stake for the 2024 elections.
Okay. All right. If you have any final thoughts, more.
No, all I have to say is, and I agree with most of what Hajia said, this election will be the one for misinformation or disinformation. And NDC should be careful. The way I want to think about this is, you see a soccer game, when a player is swift, what you do is you have to be closer to them. It's so that they don't give you any gap. And that's what NDC have to do to NPP. Yes. They have to match them. They have to be swift in matching them. They have to make sure they have system in place to debunk any false narrative, any lies, because what they are doing with this performance tracker, they are bold in our face and they are lying. They are lying bold in our face, putting projects which are not theirs, putting private projects and lying in a government-sponsored project saying it's a performance tracker. They are stealing projects and putting false information. This is just a tip of the iceberg. And they should be careful. And they should be ready, putting system in place to match them boot for boot. If they leave these people for them to run away, it will be over. And again, with the election thing, they don't have to wait for us to get to the election. They have to match them now. And that's all I have to say.
Yeah. I mean, and just to reiterate that point, voter suppression is not any different from overvoting, right? The effect is the same. So if people are treating registration processes more, lightly than they treat the actual day of voting, the end result is going to be the same thing. So, and we have shown that there was clear evidence of this EC, right, putting in place, if you like, various strategies to suppress vote. And we saw it in 2020. So I think NDC needs to really be vigilant. They shouldn't treat the missing equipment lightly, because I'm not a technically savvy when it comes to electoral equipment, but there's allegation out there that they could be used to register people, because if you have the biometric equipment, and you have the laptop that goes with it, what prevents you from putting people on the road, right? So that is something that they should pay attention to.
Prof, when the white man makes a gadget, he's not a fool. They work together. So if they say these are not important gadgets, why was it, first of all, made to go with it in the first place? So it's a very important component of the, electoral processes. And I think NDC haven't made, I'm so frustrated because this election is not about NDC. It's about Ghanaians. That's why I'm so frustrated. I want more noise. I want them to dramatize it to a point where people will see the reason why it's been taken or blown this big. Because, if you look at the attitude of the NPP, they seem to not care. They seem to be agreeing.
Yes, they don't care.
Exactly. With everything the Electoral Commission is saying, you are a political party. Electoral Commission is an independent body that you should not be able. I said independent. It's not political affiliated. So why are they so together? It's like everything the Electoral Commission does or say, they are quick to defend it. So it means that there's an agenda. And for us to be hearing that equipments are missing and nobody is saying it until a political party raises fire or hell on that, it's very clear that there's an agenda. And we're already hearing things. It's alleged, but their girls are already coming to fight like the nonsense they did with Papanu, so that tomorrow we'll be sitting there and then something would happen. Even during the Ghana card, People machines were gone like that, and they were found in people's homes. Why always, times like this that NPP comes out to defend Electoral Commission? That is what Ghanaians should wake up. And NDC, no matter what, for me, I've made it a personal thing that no matter what, we will fight and we would go out and tell Ghanaians the truth to the point where Ghanaians would wake up to them and say enough is enough. What happened to Bawumia and Kumasi is just the beginning of it.
What happened? What happened?
Oh, they hooted at him. He went to the Eid celebration and they hooted at him like they did to Adjo Safo, as my colleague mentioned. I mean, people are tired. They've seen through him and they are saying that, look, we're not going to be taken for granted anymore. Enough is enough. So I think Ghanaians should fight, not just NDC, and me, it's personal to me. It's very personal.
Okay. Well, I mean, we could go on another hour, but I think it's time to draw the curtains here. And then once again, thanks a lot for a lively conversation. And then we hope to meet again next week, Saturday. And to our viewers, we appreciate you. Keep joining us. And if you have questions, drop them in the comments, or you can comment on our videos again. And then if we missed something, we can talk about it in the following week. So panelists, you all have a good rest of your weekend, and we'll meet again next week.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Bye.
You let it yum, 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 yum. You let it yum, 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 yum.